Namaste everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 6. Bindoji is offering Bhagavad Gita from an Advaita perspective, and the earlier rooms are available on Clubhouse, or you can access them in the YouTube channel Advaita Retold. There are a couple of other links I've shared. One is an Apple podcast, and the third one is a Spotify, where you can access all these talks. Not just Bhagavad Gita, the earlier sessions on Avaroksha Buddhi and Upanishads and a few other sessions. For housekeeping, I'm going to close the hand raising and the chat. Actually, now it's called request to join instead of hand raising. Request to join and chat when Bindoji is offering the class, after which we'll open up, which will last for about an hour, after which we'll open up the channels for any questions and answers. Thank you very much, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Namaste and Hari Om to all of you. My invocation. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrabhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Garnalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Bhadarayanam Sutra Bhashikridau Vande Bhagavandau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti Murtiveda Vivagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarutaha Stunvanti Divyai Savai Vedai Sangha Padakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita tadgatena manasa Pashyanti yam yogino Yasyandam na vidussura Suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om. Last class we saw the verse 25. Shanai Shanai Uparamed Buddhiya Dhriti Grihitaya Atma Samstam Manakritva Na Kinchitapi Chintaye. Sarvan Kaman, all desires. Indriya Gramam means through the group or the cluster of sense organs. The relationship between the desires and the sense organs are indicated by the word Sankalpa Prabhavan. Born out of, Prabhavan means born out of. Sankalpa, the volition or the inner tendencies. It's not vasanas alone. The vasanas are the qualities. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas based qualities. Those qualities are triggered by the input from the sense organs to generate volition and desires. The objects outside the world by themselves are not having any intent to create desire in us. They are what they are. What is liked by somebody is not liked by another person. So the object is neutral. But that object becomes a trigger in my mind due to my vasana. Vasana means the inner impressions or the tendencies. with which the mind is now evaluating the input. The input is neutral, but the input, when it is reaching my mind, due to the tendencies in my mind, it is evaluated accordingly. Manasa asheshata tyaktva. By mind, asheshata tyaktva, completely. Shesha means whatever is remnant or residue. Asheshata means contrary to that. There should not be any residue in the mind after abandoning them. Tyaktva. Not all, whatever desires that has been triggered in my mind, without even leaving one desire, even the desire to abandon or give up, even that has to be given up. And how does that? Samantataha vinayamya. All the sides, samantataha means from all sides, or mean all types of inputs or directions from where the inputs are coming into the mind. Vinayamya, regulating or controlling. How? Shanai Shanai. Gradually and evenly. Step by step. Uparamayet should be withdrawn. With what? The mind has no potency for it. We will see that. Dhriti grihitaya buddhya. With a steady intellectual conviction, or the intellect which is now convinced about the futility of the desires. See, the mind and the intellect cannot withdraw from the engagement and the desires unless the futility is known. That is why the Viveka and Vairagya is being mentioned as important requirement for Shama and Dama. The sense organs are externally and internally. Then the Uparati comes. That is the one, Uparamet, is being used here. For that you need a conviction in the intellect that all the desires triggered by all the inputs from the various sense organs are futile. They are of no use or no value to me. That conviction in the intellect is the one which is now controlling the mind. But mind has a problem. It needs to get attached to something. If there is no content, the mind is no mind. We know that in our deep sleep. We have the mind, but there is nothing for content of it. So we say we know nothing. We have no knowledge of anything in the deep sleep. So the mind needs a content in it. That is why mana Atma Samstang Kritva, by placing the mind or latching the mind onto the sense of I, Atma. Now here the Atma again, we need to understand it is not the individuality of Aham, I, but Atma and Aham are different. The Aham Bodham or Aham Kara, this Aham Karomi, Aham Bhoktami, I am enjoyer, I am the doer. There is a sense of I-ness to it. That is all in the mind. That is why the mind is considered as Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chitta. But here it is saying that Atma Samstang Kritva, after having placed in the sense of I, which is not the Aham, but the Atma. Here is where most of us will find it difficult to really differentiate between the two. The meaning of Atma is self or I. But the I is also an ego or individuality. So when it is said that Atma Samstam Kritva, the tendency to think about the individuality or the ego or the I, sense of I, it is not the case. Here what is being referred is that the I is that Sakshi or a witness or that awareness which is aware of even the sense of I which we are all having. So when Krishna says that placing the mind in the sense of Atma, it is obviously not the ego. That is the problem when we use self as a word for English, substitute for Atma. But that is how normally it is used. We should look up to that source of knowing which even knows my individuality, feeling, or the aham kara or aham bodha. That is also in awareness. I know myself. In fact, in one of the beginning classes, I remember where Venkat asked me that question. We are all aware of ourselves. Agreed. We are all aware of ourselves. But which is the ourself he was referring to? It is the ahankara bodham, not the atma bodham. Means we know our individuality based existence and the thing, but we are not aware of the knowledge or the knowing or the consciousness or the awareness in which even the existence of the individuality is known. So Atma Samstam, the word, is not referring to the individuality, but to the knowingness or awareness or the consciousness in which everything is known. All experiences where the mind and the intellect or even the indriyas, all their functions are known in that. Both the knowing and the content of knowing. Then when the ego is there, we take on a role of I am the knower, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. So the ahankara, vimudatma, kartaham iti manyate. Krishna said in one of the earlier verses. Those who are identifying themselves with the individuality claim that I am the doer. So obviously, here when he is saying Atma Samstankritva is to differentiate between that. Here the Atma Samstam is the Akarta Abhokta. He is neither the doer nor the enjoyer, but the substratum or the ground of every knowing. What happens to when the mind is placed there? Think along with me. The mind is now devoid of all desires, tendencies, emotion, feelings and thoughts and ideations, all of them. No content in the mind. That mind which has no content is as good as the deep sleep mind, is now latched on to the sense of knowingness. That means full awareness in our deep sleep. Imagine that. After that, the tendency for the mind will be to go back to its old habits. To prevent us from doing that, Krishna is saying, na kinchidapi chintayet. The mind should not be allowed for the volition to think of anything else other than in the awareness of the knowingness. This is a practice of dhyana or a meditation which we are. See, the problem with if I use the meditation, everybody immediately thinks that you have to sit with the crossed legs in a particular place with the sanctity and all the soundless place and all those things. No. In the thick and thin of our life in a world, whether it is a crowded train or a crowded bus or a marketplace or in our office place or a cacophony of the children at home, doesn't matter. This can be practiced everywhere. Now external source is required. In fact, you are refusing all external inputs. So even if you are in the midst of the marketplace or din and roar of our mundane life, you don't need any input from the world outside. Bring the mind devoid of all the inputs from the outside latch it on to the sense of knowingness, and thereafter the mind should not be allowed to go back to the volition and back to its own routine and habit. This is the first part of the controlling of the mind. The next verse is a continuation of this. Yato yato nischarati manaha chanchalam astiram tadastata niyamya edat atmani eva vasham nayet chintayet nayet. These are all instructional words, ordering or, word of instruction. So, when Krishna is saying that, yata yata, yata means from wherever or whenever. Chanchalam astiram idam manaha yato yato nischarati tata tata etat niyamya atmani eva vasham nayet. Wherever this restless, unsteady mind wanders out from there, wherever it is, niyamya, having checked, atmani eva vasham nayet, one should lead into abiding in Atman. Yata yata, from wherever. Nischarati, wanders out. Manaha. Chanchalam means restless, flickering, unstable, oscillating, etc. Astiram, unsteady, without stability. Tataha tataha means from there. Niyamya, having governed, restrained, checked, or having brought under control. Etat means indicating this, which is meaning the mind, manas. Atmani eva, in Atman alone. Vasham nayet, vasham means control or governance, or to command or control. Nayet means lead, should bring or should conduct. Basically, it should be led into the Atman alone. See, Krishna is very clear that here one aspect of the mind. Mind is chanchalam astiram. There are two epithets for the mind. Chanchalam means restlessness of the mind. It's an inherent nature of the mind. Chanchala is what moves continuously oscillating or rapidly moving from one to another. And there is no rest in between, without pause. In a windy place, how the wick of the lamp flickers, something similar to that. Astiram is to indicate the same aspect, but the absence of stability. It is not of the asana or the sitting what we are talking about. Here it is talking about the nature of the mind. It can oscillate, but it also has a problem of astirata, without the capacity to stand still. So these two together, Chanchalam describes the mind's active, positive restlessness, always moving. Astiram describes the negative incapacity to stillness or steadiness. The two together form a complete portrait of the undisciplined mind. Both active and passive angles are not favoring the movement towards the self, because nischarati, it wanders out, moves out or wanders towards objects which is at the other end of the sense organs. So outward, when we mean it, is that the sense organs are on the body, but the contents of the material are outside. No, not that way. The mind is inside, the contents of the mind, in between there is the sense organ. It can be emotions, feelings or thoughts or objects. So this is a bahirmukhata, or the outwardness toward the phenomenal world. Nischarati, not merely chalati. Chalati means moves. Nischarati is moving outward, implying that the mind has a proper place which is toward the Atman. Atma samstam mana kritva. It's all those things which Krishna said earlier. From which, instead of, it starts wandering out. A boy who got out of the house starts wandering in the village or in the town. Now the boy doesn't know how to go back to the house. But boy, being energetic, keeps wandering again wherever it is possible. He has departed from the home. This is the standard nature of the mind. The mind cannot function without Atma. Every activity that is happening in mind is also with Atma's presence only. But instead of acknowledging and being aware of that Atma's presence, it is busy because of the tendencies and the volition in the mind, forming opinion and reacting to the sensory inputs from the world outside, phenomena world. Therefore, what we should do? Niyamya. Having restrained or having brought back under rule the immediate response to each of the Nishcharanam. That means each of the movement of the mind for wandering outward. The response should be by niyamya, by restraint or bringing back it under the rule. There is no delay prescribed between Nischarati and Niyamya. That is the way the Yato Yato and Tata Tata construction suggesting that immediate and correspondent response. The moment a wrong foot is taken, that is corrected. The moment mind gets into acknowledging an object as external phenomenal world is of interest to me, it is rectified and brought under control. This is exactly what the Pratibodham is talking about. So whenever that Nishcha Niyamya, having controlled it, Vasham Nayet. Nayet means to lead. Vasham means control. It should be led with control. This mind which is now which has been regulated from going into the world of objects for enjoyment, should be led with governance or control towards Atman. Atmani eva, in the Atman alone. This is the most compassionate verse of chapter 6 as per Shankaracharya. Krishna is acknowledging the condition of our mind. He is aware of it. He is saying that the mind is not capable of it. But on the contrary, he is saying that that is the nature of the mind, to go to the world outside for the content of it. Paranchikani vidranat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyati nandaratman. In Kathopanishad we studied this. The sense organ having been placed looking outward is driven to the world of object outward. Kaschid dhiraha, one courageous person, dhimandaha, in whose intellect is steady, buddhigrahya, dhritigrahya buddhya. That is the courageous person who has got a conviction that I am not the victim of the sense organs which is turned outwardly to run after the world of objects. He turns his look inward. Avritta chakshu amrutatvam. That is the Vasam Vayed here he is talking about. Regulating, controlling governance of the same mind towards what? Amrutatvam. Desiring the Atman. Atmani eva Vasam Vayed. In the Kathopanishad it is said, Amrutatvam pratyekatmaram aichan. having desired for the eternity, he saw the inner self. Krishna says the wandering of the mind will happen again and again as something that will certainly happen. It is not a hypothetical but a recognition of reality of practice. So we need not self-blame if we have the inability. It is not that the mind is not controllable. Know that that is the nature of our mind, to go outward for the sense objects. But the intellect which is convinced now that the mind should be engaged in the Atman or the awareness, tadat tada niyamya. From that, wherever the mind is going, regulating it and placing it or governing it toward the Atman. There is no blame game in it. We are not blaming the mind for it. Because mind is known as chanchalam and asthira. This repeated return is the practice, yata yata tata tata. It's a repeated replication, acknowledge that the return will need to happen many times in many directions, indefinitely. But it is the practice that is repeated, returning, each niyamya nayet, restraining and leading it back to the Atman, becomes the practice itself. It's not a failure to be ashamed of, but a success to be celebrated. The mind wandered, I noticed it, I brought it back. This is the yoga what Krishna is teaching us. The destination is always Atmani Eva, in the mind alone. So if you look at it, the yoga which Krishna has taught us, he told about the seat in the 11th verse, the posture in the 13th verse, regulation of food and sleep on the 16th and 17th, and abandonment of karma on the 24th verse, and then withdrawal from the karma was taught in the 25th verse to create the conditions for the mind to settle. But despite all these conditions, the mind will wander because its vasana momentum is not instantaneously eliminated by creating these conditions. These vasanas are latent impressions of the quality of the mind have been formed over countless lifetimes. They assert themselves even in the best of the conditions. Therefore, this verse 26 addresses what to do when this happens. Niyamya vasham nayed. Bring it back again and again. Where? Atmani eva. The minus is to be led to the Atman alone. Not to the mantra, not to the deity, not to the breath, not to the conceptual understanding of Brahman. Not even to the idea or knowledge or the content as Brahman. Not even the thought that Aham Brahmasmi as a sankalpa, but to the Atman itself, or the knowingness or the awareness itself. The pure self-luminous ground, that is not an object at all. In fact, it is due to that the mind is becoming mind. Otherwise, it's an instrument, a dead body, part of the dead body or the organ. Then how can the mind rest in what is not an object? The Shankaracharya answers that through the progressive dissolution of the subject-object structure itself, each time the mind is brought back, niyamya, vasamnayet, to the Atman, it approximates the Atman's ground more closely. The gap between the mind as a seeker and the Atman as the sought, the duality narrows. And at the culminating point or the end of it, na kinchidapi chintayet, it should not be allowed to think of anything else. Therefore, the subject-object structure dissolves entirely and the mind rests in the Atman not as an object, but as its own ground. Atmani avasishtate, atma samstam manakritva. This aspect of bringing mind back and abiding in that knowingness is a progressive weakening of the potency of the ignorance or maya or avidya to use the mind for the vikshepa shakti. Because mind earlier was in the avarana and vikshepa. It was covered due to ignorance, therefore it started imagining and projecting as independent entity and running after the world of objects. But now having educated about it, it is now being controlled and brought and made abiding in the Atman. Therefore, this direct counter operation to the vikshepa shakti of the mind or the projection nature of the mind, each return of the mind to the Atman is an instance of vikshepa nivritti, means cessation of the potency for projection. The mind ceasing momentarily to sustain the phenomenal world's compulsive relative claim and thereafter resting instead in the Atmans or the self-luminosity of the awareness. This is the abhyasa, which is practice. Abhyasa means practice. What is called the yogic practice. Shankaracharya connects the 26th verse Niyamya Vasamnayet, the formal teaching of the Abhyasa that will come in verse number 35 later. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. By abhyasa and vairagya, by practice and disassociation, this mind is held on to the Atma. Abhyasa, practice, is not a one-time achievement. It is a repeated practice. Therefore, the act described in this verse, Niyamya Atmani Eva Vasham Nayed, is the Adhyasa in its most practical form. The repeated, patient, judgment-free bringing of the mind back to the Atman. Each bringing is an Abhyasa. And cumulative effect of thousands of such instances is the gradual formation of Atman orientation, samskara, which eventually replaces the mind's default orientation for the world of objects. This is the Advaitic understanding how a Vinayata Chitta means a Chitta or the Antakarana which has been Vinayata means Visheshena Niyata, well regulated. And the Niyata Manasa, the mind which has been now led into the Atman, what are being achieved by these two. Not through a single heroic act of willpower, but through countless patient repetitions. Yata yata tata tata. Wherever the mind goes, from there again and again, until the mind's Atman orientation becomes its habitual and eventually natural condition. Today, the mind and the natural condition is that it goes back to the Ahankara, to the individuality which we are holding. Thereby, I am asserting that I am a human being and having a human experience, and, the experiences of Bindu is the reality. But that is not. The name and form of Bindu, the body, mind, intellect complex of Bindu, all of them are in the awareness. I cannot say it is in my awareness, because there is no mine in it. I cannot claim it is mine. It is the awareness as it is. So the default, habitual, natural condition of the mind is to identify with the human form and the human nature. But that is not the reality. The mind should be trained to know that it is the Atman, the consciousness awareness principle. Tebhyo vilakshana satchittin matro ham sadashiva. I am that pure consciousness. Why do I call myself as a human being? Because my mind is habituated to it. Because if I am a human being, I should know that I am a human being even in my deep sleep. Even in my dream, my experiences should not waver or change from human beingness to something else. The truth is that which doesn't change. Therefore, the humanness of me, Bindu as a human being, is not a reality. That is the habit of the mind to associate it because of the individuality, claiming the ownership of the mind. That is where the practice is required. This abhyasa is required there. Each and every time the mind goes to its old habit, immediately recognize it, that it is not that it will not go. It has got the tendency to go because it's practice of the mind. That is the nature in which the mind has been practiced till now. Nothing wrong with it. Don't abuse it. Don't feel ashamed of it. Don't feel that you are doing a crime. No. That is the nature in which mind is. Whenever it happens, then at that moment, acknowledge that the mind has slipped out of our control and gone back into its old habit. Never mind. Catch hold of it. Make it realize that its nature is to abide in awareness. Even when it is enjoying the object outside, it is due to the awareness. But the credit should not be given to the individuality of the human being. It is not the human being which is knowing it. That is the nature. Because of the nature, the mind is being claimed by the human being. The human nature owns the mind as if and demands the mind to report back to it. Not the mind, an obedient instrument, does what it has been practiced till then by the mind, the human nature of it. When the convinced intellect, dhritigrahya buddhya, acknowledges that the mind has gone out in search of its old habit, catch hold of it, make it realize its mistake, bring it back to be aware of the awareness with which it is able to work or in which it is functioning. That is the Atmani Eva Vasham Nayek. It will realize that it was a mistake thinking that the humanness is the reality and that experience is that of the human nature. No. Even the human nature or humanness is a content in awareness. But that will be toward the end of the practice. But initially the practice is to bring back from the empirical world or phenomenal world to the nature of self, which is Satchidananda Swarupa, or the existence and awareness. So each time when we do this, it's practicing it again and again, yata yata tata tata, this habitual nature of the mind will reduce to go outwardly. The upama of the lamp in the windless place, which was earlier mentioned, is the practical counterpart of this verse. The lamp in a windless space, nivadasta deepa, does not flicker. But the sadhaka is not yet in that state of windless space. So what does one do when with the flickering lamp? It does not discard the lamp or give up on it. It moves it away from the wind and shields it from the wind affecting it. Repeatedly and patiently until the lamp finds a position of its own protection where there is no external protection is required from the wind. Same way, yata yata nischarati manas chanchalamasstiram tadastata niyamya etat atmani eva vasham nayet is the act of shielding of this lamp, which is the mind, from each of the gust, which is the world of objects outside. Whenever the wind, the sankalpa or the vishaya based tendencies blows the mind flame, from there bring it back to the windlessness or the space of Atman or the nature of Atman. This has to be cultivated through patient and repeated practice. Never think that the failure is not the wandering. The failure would be not noticing the wandering, nor noticing but not bringing it back, or bringing it back but to a different destination other than Atman. Because the individuality or the ahankara can take different poses from a enjoyment, thrilled individual to a person who is doing yoga, meditation, to a person thinking that I am spiritually evolved. All of them are not the place where the mind should be brought, because they are all part of the empirical world or the phenomenal world. Atmani eva vasham nayet. That should be brought toward the Atman. It is there in the mind. That is why it is easy to bring it back to itself. Atmani eva means the mind and the Atman are one and the same. Only it has to discard what it is not. And as long as the yogi faithfully implements this niyama or this rule, bringing back the mind to the Atman, the practice is perfect. Regardless of how many times the mind has wandered outward, it will finally become that it has arrived and it stays arrived. That is when the abhyasa or the practice succeeds. And once it is arrived in the Atman, without wandering outside. That is, we may have the glimpse of the Atman, yet the mind will wander outside. But when the Atman glimpse is becoming a permanent thing, as to, just like we are thinking we are the human being, we will be knowing we are that consciousness awareness, the knowing principle. Krishna will later say, Yadgatva nivartande tadhama paramam mama. Once having reached this, there is no returning back. That is when the practice is successful. We'll take the next verse tomorrow, which is also an equally important verse. where Krishna is again going to the mind. Prashantamanasam hyenam yoginam sugamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmamutamahkalmasham. Indeed, to this yogin who has a thoroughly tranquil mind, whose rajas have been stilled, who has become Brahman, who is free from impurity, supreme happiness arrives. He arrives at the supreme happiness. We'll see this tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madhuji. A very deep manana on the intellect. I've opened the chat and hand raising. I think Preeti had raised her hand before the session ended, so I'm just going to call her up.
Namaste, Preeti.
Namaste, Buddhaji. First of all, thank you for such a meditative session. I just wanted to make sure that I've understood the example that you've given properly. So I look at the lamp and diya, bati, and the flame which you have mentioned is the mind. So I would like to understand if the diya, the lamp, is the body, the fuel is the knowing, the fuel is the oil, which is the awareness or the search for awareness. The the bati, which is the wick, is the Atman, and the mind is resting on the Atman, and then it is not wavering much. But when it is
No,
resting on the lamp, it is not flickering. It is very weak.
no, it is not like that, Preeti. Lamp you are keeping in a room, but then there is wind coming through some hole or window or something like that, or a crack on the door or a door which has not been closed. So the lamp, the wick flickers because of the wind. And you need the lamp to be steady because you don't want it to flicker and put off. So you keep the lamp moving in the room to such a place where the wind is not affecting the lamp. And there it is burning steady. When it burns steady, the lamp has found the place where it is not pulled in by the wind in different directions. So different directions pulling is that of the wind. The mind, which is self-luminous, was wavering due to the wind, which is the temptations from the world outside. So whenever the temptations were pulling the mind and it was flickering, it could not be steady. So it was moved to a place where there is no temptations from the world outside, because it has now found the steadiness within itself. It didn't need the wind to be steady, because the wind was always crossing it. So there is no lamp, the oil, the wick, and the flame, etc., as comparison of Atman, body, etc. I never used that simile in that particular fashion. It's only for temptations and controlling from temptations to become of a steady mind.
Yes, Binduji, I have a better understanding. So that another question, which is just an extension of the previous question. So you said that it is it is easier to practice abhyasa in a windless place, meaning where your senses are not stimulated, than it is, which is your example of a windless place. And in a windy place where you are, your senses are always aware and outwardly, it is much difficult to do abhyasa. Is that the how I can interpret it?
Yes, that is right.
Okay.
See, if a person goes to a guha or a ashrama and says that I am practicing spirituality, he is protected by not having the material world tempting him for testing his mind. Because that is the nature of the mind, to go towards the enjoyment and the worldly objects. When you are in a protected environment, either of a cave or in a spiritual environment of ashram, etc., you really don't know whether your mind, you have been able to control it. That is why people will find that they think they have become highly spiritual in such places. But only when they are tempted, they will know that they have not control on their mind. And invariably such people falls prey to the temptation, and sometimes they leave even the spiritual path for the enjoyment of the family life or the world outside. So that is why Krishna very clearly says that whenever the mind goes, you have to bring it back. Whether it is in a protected environment, it will appear to be easy, but you are not really testing it. Only when you are in the thick and competition of the world outside, you will be really able to test your own control on your mind. And it is the nature of the mind to wander away. Doesn't matter. Bring it back. Today it is being brought back to the human being. I am a human being. But you are not the human being. You are having a human experience. You are different from that because you know your body, mind, intellect, emotions, feelings, thoughts, world outside, everything. So you are not a human being. You are the awareness of all that.
Yes, Binduji, thank you so much for your session and clarifying my doubts.
Thank you, Preeti. Namaste, Disha. Thank you, Preeti.
Namaste, sir. Sir, I just wanted to ask that is love also a temptation?
Everything other than your awareness is a temptation outside.
But then we end up doing so if we are in love with somebody, we end up doing and giving so much of our energy into it with all our heart and soul. So even then, it counts as a temptation.
Yeah, it's a temptation because you think you are a human being and you are falling it to pray for it.
Hmm.
Are you a human being?
Yeah, for now, yes.
No, because you
In the
associated and you
physical
thought
in
that
the
is that
physical
what
form,
you,
I am made a human being, but
are
I
you
am
aware?
not a human being.
Yes, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Your experiences may be of a human being,
yeah.
but the experiences are rooted in awareness, consciousness. So what is known even as a human experience is a
Hmm.
content of knowing. So everything as a human being, whether it is a love, philanthropy,
Hmm.
all those words which you are using is
Hmm.
relatable only if you think you are a human being. You don't have it in your deep sleep, no?
But then if we live in this world and so I am usually detached otherwise, but
How do you know you are detached? Tell me.
because uh, I don't have friends. I am always alone, and even if someone does not call me anywhere, or if even if I'm not a part of anything, I don't feel anything. Like I am totally detached. Like I don't like to share anything about myself with anybody. But I am always there. Like I would hear out, like I would try to counsel people. But then I am aware that I know all of this is a facade. But in one case I got stuck, sir. That's why I asked you that question.
I know. I can understand your question from the very moment you asked the question. I understood where
Yeah,
where it is coming from.
yeah.
Okay, so don't matter. But do you ever know that you are the consciousness awareness in which everything is happening?
In the sense?
You are not. Everything, every experience of yours
Yeah,
is because of the awareness or the consciousness you are
having already.
not having. You are.
Okay, I am.
You are having means you are different than that is different. No, you
No,
are that.
okay, okay.
You are the awareness.
So that's why now I feel that I want to live my life alone. Like I don't, is it
There
okay?
is,
People tell me it's
there
not
is
okay.
whether you are in the crowd or whether you are alone, whether you are with family or whether you
Huh,
are with the students.
huh.
What difference does it make when you know
No,
that
in
you
the
are the
sense
awareness?
like live my life alone, as in like remain unmarried for my life. But people say that it's law of nature, like we have to marry, like you have to marry. So is that right or wrong? Like if I make a decision of not following that two people you grow up and then you have to marry and then you have to have kids. If
Tell
I don't feel
me,
like yeah,
Disha, tell me one thing.
yeah,
Is there anything right and wrong
uh,
other than human being? In awareness, there is anything right awareness, wrong awareness?
no, it's just
Yeah.
awareness.
Yes. So, if you are awareness, there is nothing right or wrong. It is all when you associate and think that you are a human being, there is right and wrong.
Okay,
That will be controlled by the nature.
okay, got it. So it is
Yeah.
not wrong. That's it. It's
I
right
won't
only.
say it's right or wrong because from my point of view, it is neither right nor wrong.
Because my conscious is taking me to that side. So I think I should just follow that, right?
Don't follow your mind. Follow your intellect.
Hmm.
And that intellect should be not a wavering one. It should be in fortitude or in steadiness.
Okay. So if I have made this decision, if you're saying that don't follow your mind, follow your intellect. If I've asked you this question that I decide not to marry. So in that, I mean, like, how do I define that if I am doing it from my mind or my intellect? Like, how do I identify that?
You should have the answer for your decision. That can come only if you are free operating from your intellect. What is the conviction for which you are making the decision? My only answer to your statement to
Hmm.
Disha is that
Hmm.
never have regrets in life.
I never have regrets, so you believe it or not.
You don't know. You don't know.
Ha.
Down the line, if you
Hmm.
are not convinced about it, and if you are
Hmm.
not holding to your conviction, you may
Hmm.
change your conviction and say, I regret now. That should not happen.
Understood. Understood. This is a major thing, but like even in smaller things in life, even if I've made mistakes, I've never regretted or put myself into that that guilt. I've always accepted those mistakes also, and I've
Good.
always moved on. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you, Disha.
Thank
Namaste,
you,
Brett.
sir. Thank you so much.
Disha, were you done? I don't know if you were done.
Yes, sir. I joined it a little later though.
No, have you completed your question and this thing? Can
Yes.
Brett go ahead with the
Yes,
question?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So, Bindo, I want to erase some confusion that I'm holding from yesterday's answer. It's the same as today because this I was excited about that. I thought I had this, but then you said no, that's only 5%. So it may have been how I asked the question. But when I read that scripture, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world any longer, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So this seeing that you've lost yourself, you've lost self into mind and you bring yourself back. This is the renewing of the mind that you're speaking of. Is that correct?
That's right. Absolutely right.
Time that you see that you've lost yourself. You're actually, you know, you're in the mind because you're emotional or you're whatever you are. You have lost contact with your true self at that moment. So in that bringing yourself back, you are transforming the mind, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm
Thank you, Sri.
for once the Bible seems right, Bendo, to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Brett. Prakash, we'll stop.
Binduji. So for all the participants, a reminder, if you want to go deeper into what Binduji is addressing, he always suggests the method of Shravana Manana, which is to be able to practice with the narrative that is being offered, because that will give you what a clear intellect is and all that. The meaning and the answers that are provided will have a lot more resonance in your own understanding. And for that, we have made these replays available in a clubhouse. They are available, but you can access them in the Advaita Retold YouTube channel, or you can use the other links, Apple Podcast, Spotify. So if you listen to the session and then come back tomorrow, then you can be with Bindoji much more resonating how he is unfolding that. And as always, I thank everyone for attending the session, and especially those who came up and asked questions. And a special thank you to Bindoji. And with a reminder that we'll be meeting again at 8:30 p.m. IST, I pass the mic on to Bindoji to close the session.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Preeti, Disha, and Brett for coming up and asking your questions. And to all of you, those who have been listening diligently and every day, a big thank you to all of you. See you tomorrow at the same time. Hari Om.
Good night. Hari Om.